let's talk to American Homeboy director LORAN Maxwell is joining us on the show.
How you doing?
Brandon, hey man, thank you. Oh wow,
Hey.
you've got a great setup. Check that out,
Look at
man.
that. Oh my gosh.
First of all, look at that. You got the LA hat. I want to say congratulations to you. I learned about your movie from Paulie. Love Paulie from Latino Slant.
Sure.
Told me all about your film. Showed me the trailer. I have not seen the film, I'll admit, but it looks epic in scale. All about Latino culture in Los Angeles, how it's evolved, changed, kind of where things have come from, all the evolution, the sort of societal evolution of the culture, and it looks fantastic. It's an epic archival documentary. So those are really hard to make.
Yeah.
You had your premiere last week. It's now in theaters.
Correct.
Tell us about the film.
So the film, first of all, I'll dispel the myth that the film is about Los Angeles only. You know, the film really is about the entire United States. It's about the Southwest in particular, but it really is an American story, hence why it's called American Homeboy. But yeah, we draw on a lot of archival footage. I think in the end, I edited that film from about 20 terabytes of footage. So we had about 20 terabytes of archival footage and interview footage that we drew from ultimately to create kind of an hour and a half movie.
And what is it looks very much like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it feels like it has sort of a real like punk rock You Are There kind of feel. How did you find all this archival footage?
There's a lot of different sources. One area that we drew some of our footage from was from an old cable access show up in San Jose. And what was funny is, some of the footage is online in archives. Some of it hasn't been, but basically it was donated to the city after this cable access station basically went defunct, and the city really hasn't done anything with it. And so, we approached the city and we talked eventually to the filmmaker, and we said, hey, this is some great footage. We'd love to be able to try to help more people see this. And so that was one of the areas where we found footage. We worked with Ford Motor Company and the National Archives. So a lot of people don't realize that like Henry Ford was one of the biggest holders of early American footage in the country, because, Ford was all over the world in the early 20th century. And so he filmed things. He created newsreels for, his internal employees and things like that. So we worked with National Archives to actually get the deeds to some of that footage, and then we used AI to restore it. So, for example, we have some scenes of the Mexican Revolution in our film that we restored using AI and kind of upscaled it from there.
Oh my God. I've seen the upscales of that footage, that documentary by Peter Jackson. I've seen that process.
So good.
From World War I, it's insane how good he'll match frames. I've become obsessed with Paris, France in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
And they see that footage that was made with hand cranked cameras at around 16 or 18 FPS. And then they restore it to like 30 FPS.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. Some of that is out of my depth. I wish I had the resources to do as good as Peter Jackson can do with some things. Let It Be, I think it was called too, was really good. And I'm a huge Beatles fan, by the way, so I try not to go off on that tangent. But but we were able to get a hold of some technology that made it possible. And the film looks tremendously better than it did before we had it. And, we worked for about 3 years doing interviews from various people from around the country, people in academia, people in prison, ex-gang members, kind of spread the gamut to tell this story of Zoot Suit and Cholo culture as it kind of developed across 100 years in the United States. And of course, from that, you have a bunch of subcultures that spawn from it, right? Like low riding, tattooing, Cholo culture, all these different things, but they're all intertwined.
Yeah. Let's see. We have a bunch of comments here from people, comments and questions from people who are watching. But I first have to start with this. Paulie from Latino Slant, my man, this doc is incredible and for all to see. So that's
Paulie has seen it?
Yeah, Paulie went to the premiere, and Paulie's a friend. I just got off the phone with Paulie. I was really cranky when I was on the phone with him, and now I feel bad. But Paulie's a wonderful person. He's been a longtime supporter of what we do over at the Daily Chela. We own this little media company we started, and this is our first main project, was this film. And so Polly's been there really from the get-go, along with just a handful of other people. And you know Polly, of course, and what he does is great. So
He's very
it was
much
great having him out.
he's just a great cheerleader for a lot of, films and filmmakers, and he's a big supporter. I actually saw we actually showed your trailer at, I think it was WonderCon. We showed the
Oh
trailer.
yeah.
We showed the trailer there, and it was just great to see it in front of an audience. It had to be quite an experience to have the premiere. What was that experience like? Was
Oh,
that
the premiere, it couldn't have gone any better. I mean, all of this couldn't have gone any better because you got to remember, we started making this film and we are just going to stream it online. I raised money and I created an app, and then I raised money to make the film, and we're going to stream the film on our own app and just completely cut everybody out.
Oh, wow.
And so that's still kind of the plan, but we didn't expect the trailer to do 3 million views in, the first couple months. And so, we went from that to being in 10 theaters. And so we're kind of playing catch up. Like I'm right now, I can't really meet demand. I'm trying to meet demand. We could probably fill theaters for a week straight in some cities, but it's hard when you're an independent business and trying to work those deals with those theaters. But we've been able to get into about 10 cities, and we've got a huge event coming up at the California Automotive Museum. It's a 4-hour event. So they're going to screen the film in there. And we have an 800-seat theater in Gardena that's coming up. We have San Francisco, Chicago, Tucson, Albuquerque, Portland is tomorrow. And I think one of the things that's cool about this film is that, another thing I didn't expect was that so many people outside of the Mexican-American community would like it. That's obviously our kind of demographic and our audience, but, in Portland, half the theater is white. And they've been happy, ecstatic to go see it. And we've had conservatives who've seen it who end up liking it. We've had progressives who've seen it who end up liking it. It doesn't mean you always agree with everything in it, but I think ultimately, a lot of people kind of walk away and they learn something new while realizing I wasn't necessarily pushing an agenda or trying to put stuff in people's face. It's kind of an ode to a culture that I love.
Let me tell you why your movie's great. I recently saw a movie. It was Asian Americans. It was about Asian America's cinema. And it basically was a 2-hour movie about white oppression. What I liked about your movie was that you're just telling the history. You're presenting the facts. Yes, white people don't always come out so well in this one because those were facts. That was history. But by the end of the movie, your story is one of, pride and inspiration. It's the birth of a culture that the entire community has taken pride in, and it just by the end of it, you can't help but sense the positivity and the good feelings that comes at the end of it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And, obviously there are some hard conversations we have at times in the film, when you talk about Zoot Suiters being rounded up during World War II, just because of what they were wearing, things like that, Vietnam, those are all things that really happened. And I think it's okay to talk about history in those contexts. I think one of the problems we have in our society today is that people don't always have good faith conversations. It's one thing to talk about history in the context of having a better future. It's another to talk about history in the context of you just want to tear everything down, and there's no real good faith there. And there's sometimes some alternative motives and agendas behind those conversations. So, I wanted to make a film that was honest and a film that, everybody can enjoy, and a film that informed people first and foremost, because I feel like a lot of people have seen aspects of this culture, but they don't know where it came from. They don't know much about it, right? They've seen lowriders, maybe they've seen the black and gray tattoos, maybe they've seen the fashion, but they just don't know much about how it came to be. And this is part of the reason why that subculture embraces it so much, because a lot of them do know that history. So
we have a lot of questions from our chat, because got, a lot of people, hundreds of people watching here. So let's get to it. Lord Thaw says, welcome aboard, Brandon. And then Dennis Wright, innocent question. What's a homeboy?
Well, a homeboy is it's a term of endearment in a lot of ways, right? Like, that's my friend, that's my homeboy. That's somebody who's, it could be from the neighborhood, or it can be just a close friend. But it's a term of endearment. Generally, when you say homeboy in a Mexican-American context, we're talking about either a close friend, or we're talking about somebody who's a part of one of those subcultures. So it could be lowriding, or it could be cholo culture, the arts or something like that. So kind of one of those lanes within that broader subculture,
Cool.
which is Chicano culture, really.
Greasy Guido asks, I only know Texas Cholo culture. Is it similar to California?
I think Texas is pretty different. I think you start to see a lot of some changes once you get to Texas. Like Texas kind of does its own thing. Although Texas was really important during the creation of this subculture, because a lot of this came through El Paso. That was kind of the big opening. We talk a little bit about this in the film, where you had an influx of people coming here after the Mexican Revolution through El Paso, and then they migrated over to LA in many circumstances as these subcultures began to develop, particularly when we're talking about zoot suit culture. So that's really big in El Paso. But ultimately, Texas has aspects of it, but it does things on its own too.
Latino Slant Polly says, Chris Gore is my homeboy. I'll take that. And then question, hey, it's me and HD. I'm hoping I can find a showing in Houston.
Yeah, we get so many requests from Houston. I've tried so hard with Texas. What I'm trying to do is find an independent theater in Texas. We have to find independent theaters that aren't beholden to the big studios who can play an independent film. I guarantee we'll sell out wherever we play in Texas, but I have to find a theater in Texas. So I'm working on it. It's on our radar, but I haven't been able to find one in Texas yet.
And then, hey, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Hey, it's me and HD says Cholo culture and punk rock are like PB&J.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because when I was growing up, I knew a lot of cholos, I knew a lot of punk rockers, and I liked a lot of punk rock music. I listened to Bad Brains and stuff as a youth, and so yeah, I think there's definitely some similar feelings of feeling like outcast at times, and then being very confident with who you are, and so yeah, I see some similarities there, and I think in LA especially you see some crossover. You can go to punk rock shows in LA and see cholos there.
That's what I noticed, because I was always into punk rock coming from Detroit, and then came to LA, and there was definitely crossover.
Yeah, because it's big enough, because 10 million people, 8 million people in that city, so there's enough to have a variety of people who have just different stuff that they like. I had a lot of homeboys. I mean, like I said earlier, I listened to the Beatles. I love the Beatles. Even when I was driving my lowrider and all banged out, I was still listening to the Beatles with my homeboys and Black Sabbath and all that. So
here's a question from Greasy Guido. Best Beatle, John, Paul, or George? Don't you dare say Ringo.
Well, they're all a little bit different, right? I mean, they all brought something different. You saw that after they split up, who influenced what. But I mean, Paul was kind of the melodic one. John was great with the lyrics, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and all this. And then George was kind of the spiritual one. But Ringo was good at tempo. And so that was his strong point. But yeah, I like them all. They made some great records.
Yeah. Hey, here you go. Raylo Normie says, I can't imagine my growing up in Texas without Mexican American culture. It's such a big part of our lives, especially in the western section of Texas. I'm so glad to see this. Another one, the Nerd Far Away says, Hail, Mr. Maxwell. What is your favorite genre when it comes to film?
Yeah, see, I love talking film. I like these kind of questions. So, wow, probably my favorite genre is going to be dramas or documentaries. I love Werner Herzog. I like films like what's his name, who made A Thin Blue Line? Earl Morris.
Errol Morris.
Yeah. So he's done some good ones. So yeah, one of my favorite films is Sherman's March. You ever seen that film?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's a classic.
Really
so I like those obscure kind of documentaries. I love dramas. And I like comedies. I'm actually not a huge fan of action movies, and I'm not a huge comic book fan either. But that's not to say that I'm not on that whole I hate comic book movies things. There's some good comic book movies. I'm just not into action movies in general.
Gotcha.
Hey, our chat is trying to book your movie. Have you talked to the Frida Cinema yet?
The Frida Cinema, is that in Texas?
No, that's Santa Ana. That's in Santa Ana.
Oh, okay. I'll take notes here and I'll follow up.
Yes, I think that Frida will do it. And then in Texas, I was at the Texas Theater, which is the theater they caught Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oh, nice.
They are very much an indie film theater, and I think they would.
What are they called?
It's the Texas Theater in Dallas.
Okay, I'll follow up.
Draft House Films. They release them in all their theaters.
Okay.
The chain Draft House. But yeah, the Frida Cinema talked to a guy named Trevor Dillon.
Okay. Sure.
After this, message me after this. I'll give you his contact info.
Okay. Yeah.
And is the perfect place for your movie.
You know, it's crazy because we're selling out theaters, and I mean, the amount of messages and emails that we get from people that want to see it. It's a unique film. Like I can't think of one that's like it. But I mean, I think just because of the amount of archival footage and stuff that we have, and we got our first Rotten Tomatoes review from you, which has been good. And we've had other people who have talked about online and how they really thought the film was pretty good. So
look, the one thing for me is it's informative. I mean, I legitimately learned a lot that I had never known. And I grew up, I was born in South Central, and I spent a lot of my adulthood in East LA. And this is stuff I never knew about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, we have a lot of questions in the chat.
Yeah, sure.
So, here we go. William Sleeper for 499. Brandon, is it bad that most of my knowledge of Chicano culture is Cheech Marin and George Lopez? What's wrong with that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I saw in first run in the 70s, Cheech and Chong.
Who doesn't like Cheech?
Yeah,
that movie is one of the greatest. Okay, forget that Chicano culture. It's one of the greatest comedies of all time.
Yeah,
it is that duo, and the final scene where they're rocking out it's just crazy. And we used to listen to Cheech and Chong, the album. It was one of those. Remember when comedy was like dangerous? We get the album. I'm probably a little older than you, but I remember when we would get that album and the Steve Martin album and just laugh our asses off.
Yeah,
at that stuff is just epic.
Sure, and I like Steve Martin too. I always think of Cheech for some reason. I always think of A Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah,
got those two different parts that he plays in that film.
Yeah. Matthew Hammond for $4.99 asks, can you discuss how you used AI? And was it difficult to use?
Yeah, no, I don't think it was difficult, but it can be time consuming. And you have to dial it in to figure out what works for whatever footage you're putting through. And if you're upscaling footage, then you essentially need to add more pixels. And so, if you're taking something that was, really shot in the early 1900s to get it to 1080 or 1998 in terms of size, 2K or 4K, you have to add a lot of pixels. And so that's what AI does, kind of filling in those pixels so you can upscale it. Some of this old footage is missing stuff to begin with, so you can fill in those as well. But there's a lot of different types of, AI technology that can help fix old footage. So it's just kind of about finding which one works. Most of the programs have multiple things that you can use. But, I recommend it for just home videos as well. If you have some videos you shot, in the 90s and you just want to digitize them and make them look better, there's some good programs out there. Topaz I like a lot.
We used paper from Big Bamboo, says Pilgrim Media for 2. Thank you for that. And then here's interesting quote from you, from $8.24 from Rumble. Quote, speech should be the last thing anyone concedes and the first thing that everyone defends, regardless of who it offends. That's a quote from you, Brandon.
Yeah, my politics always find their way into my interviews, no matter what.
What's wrong with that?
I've noticed that. Nothing wrong with that. I mean,
okay, this is not controversial at all. That's
yeah, I love it. I'm a very big free speech guy, so people can take that and love it or hate it. It doesn't make a difference to me. I think speech is extremely important. And, this film, I think shows you why speech is important too. You never would have had a Chicano movement without the ability to express yourself, right? The civil rights era was entirely steeped in the First Amendment, right? And so I think, the First Amendment is important because it allows us to criticize. It allows us to satirize. It allows us to, express ourselves and things like that and have disagreements. And that's how we get through these problems, by having these discussions. So, yeah, I'm a big proponent of speech. And I think at times in our society, people have the tendency to shut off different points of view more than they should.
We've got questions.
This is a big part of your film too. So.
Yeah.
Joel Carver has a comment, says true stories are about true events and people are apolitical. We're all multi-layered individuals. I'm going to check your doc out. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And by the way, one of the things that we do in this film is show different walks of life within this culture, within this subculture, because there is a lot of different personalities and perspectives within this subculture. I think sometimes media and academia, they have the tendency to push it one way or the other. But in the streets, when you're actually around these people, and you like, I know because I grew up with it. There's a lot of different personalities and perspectives, just like any other part of life. Right. So, I really tried to show that in this film so people could see how rich it is.
Just a question here from Patrick Burt. Will it be showing in Canada or only the US? Otherwise, will it be streaming?
Yeah, only the US for now. And yeah, we're going to stream it on our app next month, Daily Chela TV, on September 14th. Probably long term, we'll look to place it somewhere with a bigger type of distributor that can help us get it to where more people can see it. But it just kind of depends on what that looks like and what it entails. I'm very careful about just selling off it as a property. Mm-hmm. We have been approached by streamers and stuff, but I think that you're better in control of your destiny when you control your own IP, as long as you try and hold it. I like that Terry Perry model.
I'm a fan of that. I like I made a deal with a company called Indie Rights. It's for 3 years, but it got us on all these other platforms that wouldn't be easy to get on. The other company, aside from Indie Rights, you can Google it, is Film Hub. That'll help you or you can do what you did and build your own platform. I saw your interview with Paulie. It was really, I learned quite a bit. Another comment here from, hey, it's me in HD for 199. Brandon, you're a real one. For the Bad Brains mention.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Paul Banks says, what's your favorite TV series?
I don't watch a lot of TV series. The last series that I really liked that I watched was Breaking Bad. Maybe that's cliche to watch or to say, but it was such a good series. And it was good because the writing was good. The music was good. The acting was good. The plot was good. It's like all of those points just happened to hit with that series. So it was a great series, but I really haven't watched the series since then.
Cool. And then what do you think of Westerns?
I just watched 310 to Yuma the other day, which believe it or not I had not seen. I love that. That's a great film. I'm not I don't traditionally watch a lot of Westerns, but I like 310 to Yuma. I liked what was that Coen Brothers remake that they just did with the horse, True Grit. I thought that was a great remake, but the Coen Brothers are good at everything they do. So
yeah. Solomon Thornton asks, any advice for beginning filmmakers? I love history and can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I think my advice, it's weird, even calling myself a filmmaker, but I guess if I made a film and it's in the theaters, that makes me a filmmaker to some extent. I actually dropped out of high school. I got kicked out of 2 high schools, and then I dropped out of high school, and then I got talked to going back. And that was when I really kind of took my first film class. So I've always loved film, even though I became a writer. And so this was kind of going back to one of my loves next to theater to make this film. What I learned is that if you wait for somebody to give you permission or to say yes, you'll be waiting forever. You just have to go forward and do the best you can with the resources you're able to come up with. I would also say that communication is an underrated skill set in getting anything done. It's, being approachable and being able to communicate your ideas clearly and being friendly with people can go a long ways. I mean, sometimes you get help along the way from people you didn't think you would. So I'm not saying you can't disagree with people. I talk politics all day long, but I don't tear into people and take personal shots at people. And so I'm able to maintain a lot of friendships across the political aisle. And so you'd be surprised on who you run into sometimes in your journey of making a film. I mean, eventually you're gonna have to work with actors and all types of different people. So I think communication is really important, but I think the most important thing is, doing something that you love and then not waiting for permission. Because I'd still be waiting to get this done if I had waited.
100%. That's Mark Duplass has a quote about that where he says, the cavalry isn't coming. Yeah. No one's going to come and save you. You got to save yourself and whatnot. So just a few more questions before we wrap up.
Sure.
Real quick. Favorite actor or actress?
Oh, I really like, who was it in Phantom Thread? What's his name in Phantom Thread? And There Will Be Blood.
I know exactly. I can see the face.
I don't know why the
Alan's
name is
not here to tell me who it is.
I'm a huge fan of him, even though I can't think of his name right now. So maybe somebody can say in the comments, but There Will Be Blood. I like him as an actor a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he won an Oscar. And
Yeah,
I'm like picturing. Oh my God, this is
I
this is when I
know.
know I need to eat something. Another question here: if you could collaborate with someone, who would it be and why?
Probably Werner Herzog. You know, I really like Werner Herzog. I like Werner Herzog because he's a go-getter. He'll throw himself right into the mix and let the chips fall where they're going to fall, and that's kind of how I am. And so I think Werner Herzog's a real one. And by the way, I mean he ate a shoe because he lost a bet. I don't know if you've seen that video on YouTube.
No.
He made that bet. He said he'd eat a shoe if he lost it. So he lost that bet. So he went in front of a college campus and filmed himself boiling and eating a shoe. Daniel Day-Lewis, that's it.
There you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
I like him a lot.
The chat is always right. And a final comment here: would reaching out to museums and art galleries as a potential location to view the film be a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, is financially, if we can make it work, it is. I mean, we just did a deal with the California Automotive Mobile Museum in Sacramento, you know, and that's a museum, and they're going to screen it. So they're going to do a special 4-hour event with the movie. So it is if the museum's interested.
Well, Brandon, I want to first of all congratulate you for your success and thank you for being on the show today. One final question here from Matthew Hammond: did you create a behind the scenes showing how you made this movie, or a commentary track? Is that coming later?
I am going to do a commentary track. That's a good question. I don't have behind the scenes showing how I made it. I have some behind the scene commentary from the people from interviews that didn't make it into the film, but I wish I had filmed the whole thing, but it was also over the course of 3 years. So I just didn't think about having a camera with me most of the time. But I'm going to do one with the commentary. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, thank you, Matthew Hammond and Brandon. Thank you so much. Go to AmericanHomeboy.com. You can see it on the screen right now, where you can see it in theaters. Sign up to get updates from it. That's how you find out about this film. And I know it'll be in contention. We do, because your movie was reviewed on Film Thread and it's available. Your film will be in contention for our award show. Award this. We do
next
an
year.
indie film next year. Yeah, not this year, but next year. It'll be eligible. I think there's a pretty good chance it'll get nominated, just based on a lot of the stuff I see and the quality of work. So, and this is one of the hardest types of documentaries to make. Is an archival documentary is so difficult. Having made one myself, it took you 3 years.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of loopholes you got to jump through, or loops with licensing and everything, so yeah, but I didn't know that going in. So it's probably better that way.
I mean, I'll just say the editing you did, I emailed you about it yesterday, but it must have been insane because it's so packed and dense, but it makes me never want to make a documentary.
Well, thank you. I edited that in 90 days, and a union editor wanted 9 months for that 20 terabytes. And we were already booked in theaters before I edited the movie. All I had was footage.
Wow.
We got booked into theaters off the trailer. And so I sat down and I did 90 days straight editing. I worked my day job, and I'd go to the office at 9 p.m. after the family went to bed, and I edited till 2 a.m. And so I took my first day off in March, and that felt really good. But yeah, and my air conditioner was broke, so it was like 103 degrees in my office. So it was quite the journey.
Cool. Brandon, thank you so much. Keep us up to date with the film. We can always, this is what we do. A lot of filmmakers, I have to tell them this. Maybe we should advertise it more. But like, if your movie plays again, we can put it back on the front page of Film Thread and let people know, like, now screening here or doing this. Okay. So, or when it goes to, inevitably, I hope it gets on some streaming service or your own streaming service. Like, we'll make sure that's in the review, right? It'll be in the review, Alan. The website. I'm sure it is. Alan knows what he's doing. Yeah. I don't need to talk. So
we coordinate these things. We're here to promote indie
Okay,
film.
Good. All right. I'll stay out of the conversation.
That's why we exist. That's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. So Brandon, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll meet someday in person because Paulie has some gatherings. Love, he's just introduced me to so many quality people and just people doing like amazing work. And I'm proud to call Paulie my friend, and anyone's a friend of Paulie's is a friend of mine. So thank you for coming on the show and supporting,
thanks for having me.
Supporting independent film, and congrats on the movie.
Thank you. I'll talk to you guys again.
All right. Take care, Brandon.
All right.
Appreciate it. All right. Later.